everyone, welcome to the Histrology Show. I am your producer and novice historian, Gwen.
And I'm Lindsay Roth. I am a licensed therapist and unlicensed astrologer.
Quick note before we get started, this is meant to be a very casual conversation about history and astrology. So if you are somebody who takes either of these subjects very seriously, this might not be the show for you.
Thanks, Gwen. Yes, there are limits to the observable universe, and nothing's real.
With that, let's get started. Today we are talking about somebody whose name is not only synonymous with ideas of cunning, evil, sinister, scheming, conniving, but has actually become an adjective for those things. And we are talking about none other than the ultimate Renaissance pick-me boy, Niccolò Machiavelli. Cue applause. So Machiavelli was born on May 3rd, 1469 at 11:07 p.m. in Florence, Italy, making his top 3 signs.
Oh.
I don't know what they are.
You're
the astrologer.
I was like, yeah, how does this bitch know? Okay. Yes, and so this has been adjusted for the Gregorian calendar. So he is a Capricorn rising, a Taurus sun, and a Aquarian moon.
Ooh, okay, very interesting. So a little context about this time. The Renaissance is happening, and it's important to remember that the Renaissance is really a rediscovering of old ideas and putting them into a new context. There was lots of different and new ways of thinking at this time, one of them being humanism, which isn't quite what we think about it today. It's pretty much people who just studied the humanities. So Latin, ancient Greek, rhetoric, grammar, moral philosophy. It was people who were kind of looking back into antiquity at these old philosophers and reclaiming those ideas. So think Plato, Aristotle, things like that.
The white ones.
The white ones. And humanists really wanted to expand this knowledge out to the general public so that people could use it in their civic duties. It was really based in intellectualism, not moralism. And that's the major difference. So politics before this time and the church, the way that it was ruling was through morals. And now there's this whole class of people who want to use intellect to run politics and civic life. It's also important to note that Italy was not united at this time. So it was broken up into many different city-states that were almost always warring with each other, and other countries are coming in and warring with them. War is happening constantly. And I just want to note that I don't care. As a person studying history, war is so boring and it's happening constantly at this time. So I'm not really going to be talking about that, but just note that, it wasn't necessarily a peaceful time. Italy was not united. Florence was its own city-state, warring with other city-states in Italy. At the time of Machiavelli's birth, Florence was actually ruled by a banking family called the Medicis, which made Florence pretty much an oligarchy or a plutocracy, which we don't love. It sounds a little familiar. We don't love it. They were a banking family that was pretty much using their money to control the government. However, the Medicis were huge patrons of the arts, let's say.
They always are.
They are not always, actually. In fact, we could learn a thing or two about the Medicis. We don't love a plutocracy. However, thanks to them, we got a lot of amazing art during the Renaissance that wouldn't have existed otherwise. They are kind of the reason why Florence looks the way it does today, which is gorgeous. They really invested in public spaces, which is something that people in power today could maybe learn a thing or two from. Because turns out when people have beautiful public spaces to be in, they're pretty happy,
That sounds nice. Yeah, that sounds great.
So we don't love the Medicis. And you know who else didn't love the Medicis? The Machiavellian family. They actually hated the Medicis. Bernardo was Niccolo's father, and he was actually not a citizen because he didn't pay his taxes because he didn't like the Medicis. And his cousins attempted a coup, and one of them was beheaded at one time by them.
Huh.
So that just paints a picture of the environment that Machiavelli was born into. The Machiavellis really did not like the Medicis, and this is something that will haunt him the rest of his life.
Okay.
Keep that in mind. Machiavelli really wanted to be involved in politics. He couldn't because the Medicis were in power. However, as fate would have it, in 1494, at the age of 29, Machiavelli was able to join the government because the Medici lost power. And a republic.
Return.
29?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The Florentine government, like the republic, was reinstated and the Medicis were kicked out. And so, yeah, Machiavelli is stoked. It's kind of a low-level job that he receives. He's the second chancery or something like that. I am not an expert in Florentine politics, but he was pretty much like an errand boy for the government. He was sent on behalf of Florence to negotiate with other powers. They would say, hey, go talk to this person and try to get them to settle for this. However, Machiavelli didn't have any real power or sway. The negotiations weren't working out. They would just send a real diplomat.
Okay. Oh, he's like an intern.
He's like an intern.
Yeah.
He does, like, he's sent on these errands, but he doesn't have any actual political power or sway. So it's not great. However, these travels and him being able to kind of observe people in power is definitely what influenced his political writings down the road, which he is most famous for today. One of these people that Machiavelli was able to sit back and observe was Cesare Borgia, who was kind of a rock star in Italy at this time. He was the illegitimate son of Pope Alexander VI.
Oh.
Who was...
How did that happen?
So Pope Alexander VI is his own story, okay? That guy, he's known as like the evil pope. He had children. The evil pope. He had three children. Popes aren't supposed to...
It's a miracle, really.
Well, he wasn't a pope when he...
Okay.
So he became pope. So he was like a bishop or whatever. I don't know. He's in the church.
We clearly are not. So, yeah.
I don't know what's going on over there. He's a cardinal or a bishop or whatever. He's in the church. He's a man of the church. He has 3 illegitimate children that he lies and say are his nieces and nephews. And he is able to become pope.
Nice.
And then he's kind of like, I don't know. I didn't look too much into Pope Alexander VI. I'm sorry. But like, I don't know if he's like, just kidding, those are my kids. And then like gives them power.
I know it's like crypto nepotism or something.
Yeah. So he's
savvy.
Just like, like Cesare is his son. And when his dad becomes pope, he's able to kind of like run amok in Italy and claim a bunch of lands for himself.
Okay. He was the Hunter Biden of his time, perhaps.
He was, but he was like, no.
Okay, never mind. I don't do history.
No. He was way cooler.
Okay.
He was way cooler. He was like a rock star. Okay. He was very cool. He's hot. He has syphilis. He's like... taking over lands. He's wearing black velvet.
Oh, nice.
You know, but he's kind of cruel and mean, right? He's killing a lot of people. He probably murdered his brother to remain in power. Yeah, and Machiavelli was just obsessed with him. Like, Machiavelli loved Cesare Borgia, like total man crush, biggest fanboy. He writes about him so much in The Prince. He really believed that Cesare Borgia was just the right amount of cruel.
Okay.
However, like I said, Cesare was kind of this rock star figure and people really liked him at first, but then they were like, oh, actually, you're terrifying. He would send people to work for him and then he would murder them afterwards and like chop them up into tiny pieces and parade them in the square.
Wow.
Weird stuff like that. He had a very quick rise to power, but then his dad did end up dying. And so then he had a very swift downfall as well. And this is important. It blew Machiavelli's mind. He is so confused as to why Cesare Borgia lost all of his power so easily. He can't believe it. He actually consults an astrologer and he's like, what happened? Like, this guy did everything right. You know, he lied, he schemed, he was just looking out for number one. He should have been good. I'm so confused what happened. And the astrologer was like, turns out it was just a bad year to stand up against the powers that be. It was not an auspicious time to do that. And so Machiavelli is really flabbergasted, and he spends pretty much the rest of his life pondering this concept of fortune. Right? And fortune as in the female goddess of like fate. How much of our lives is in our control and how much of it is left up to fate and timing and all of these bigger concepts that are outside of our control. It was fortune, which was like a feminine aspect that was unpredictable and maybe crazy. And then there was virtue, which at that time was known, it was a humanist concept of like, pretty much like your will. Yeah. Very manly concept of like being able to dominate your will over the world around you and your circumstances.
Interesting, but that's like disconnected from the consequences of one's actions. It sounds like.
Yes, exactly. Like Cesare kind of had what was coming to him. Yes. He didn't earn anything. His father became the Pope. Yes. It turns out, his father shouldn't have even had children. Yeah. He was a terror. And then a later Pope was like, you're not allowed to do any of this. Bye.
That's very Saturnian themes. And it comes from astrology, right? Like it's all about like the manifestation of consequences, which is his chart ruler. So
Machiavelli's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It seems like there's a certain level of disconnect or at least it was just confusing for people. They're trying to understand why some people can do actions and it would result in one way, and another person could do the same actions and it would result in a different way. So that's really the concepts that Machiavelli is chewing on and trying really hard to understand.
With, I'm sure, his own kind of like biases of the time of like, what is virtuous
100%
and what he thinks that should lead to.
Yes, and don't think about virtue like the way that we think about it now and today, like virtuous. It's not like morals.
It's not like donating to charity.
No. It's more about like your will. Yeah. And how much hard work you put into things and how much you try. And the things that you put into your life and what the outcomes of those are. Anyway, Machiavelli's career is never very exciting. No. Unfortunately, he's...
Well, if you're into torture, maybe, but...
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. Medieval torture. Yeah. So he's just really, like, the Florentine Republic is not very fleshed out, right? It's still... They used to have a republic before the Medicis, but... It's just not very fleshed out. It's not running very efficiently. Machiavelli is very arrogant and has a lot of opinions. And it's very like eye roll energy, right? He's very annoyed with how things are being run. And he just doesn't suffer fools. Like he really, if he didn't think that you were smart enough to deserve his whatever, he didn't give it to you. Okay? And so this is something that... was kind of a crux in the things that he was trying to learn and understand. Like, he couldn't change his nature when it came to this. Yeah. Like, I think he probably intellectually knew, if I just suck up to these people, I'll do better politically, but he could not do it. Like, he was so stubborn.
Yeah, major authority issues, daddy issues.
Major authority issues. And I don't, like, I think that was passed on to him from his father. Sure. Right? Because his father also was like, screw the Medici. Like, what? Who are these people? I'm not giving them my money. Yeah. So I think that was probably instilled into him at a very young age. It's relatable. I have authority issues as well.
But he wants he wants the power, but he doesn't want to play the game with the power holders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that a little bit too. So pretty much his biggest political success in his career was instating a citizens' militia. This is one thing that he was really, really passionate about. At the time, a lot of city-states were hiring troops from other countries or whatever. And he was like, nah, that's not it. Like, we need a militia of people who are from our country and who care about our cause.
Interesting. Big Second Amendment guy. Huh?
Big Second Amendment guy, huge. He believed in armed citizens, which is important to remember when we think about his later writings, like The Prince.
Yes.
Because it's not like it is today, right? Like, if you were an armed citizen back then, you could fight against the government. Okay, so just remember that. He believed that citizens should be armed, and he also believed that citizens should be fighting for what the government wanted and needed, fighting for Florence, for example.
Interesting. And yeah, I guess this is a time too, where like in the public square there are like executions, right? So like violence is very much more on display than state violence is much more obvious now than it is in our time.
In our time, yeah. Totally. Violent. It's very violent.
It's very violent, which it still is. We just hide it better.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. So his citizens' militia was able to reclaim Pisa in 1509, which is by far his biggest political success that he ever has.
It was his January 6th.
Well, good. You're going to love this. So what I love about this time period is that people back then really believed in omens.
Okay.
They were very connected to the natural world.
11/11.
Well, this is like
before the Gregorian time. Never mind.
No, we still believe in omens today, which is what I'm going to talk about. So when they reclaimed Pisa in 1509, and they were kind of like celebrating it in the wherever in Florence, a dove flew in, and they were like, oh, it's a good omen. However, the dove flew into a wall and died, and they were like, it's still a good omen. It's a good omen, which should have, it clearly should have been a sign that it wasn't a good omen. But it did remind me of when the bird landed on Bernie Sanders' podium, right? And everybody erupted in it was such a spiritual moment for people. Like, it was a good omen.
The synchronicity. Yeah. Powerful.
So I did love that. So yeah, they were optimists. They were like, still a good omen. Everything's fine. Don't worry. Except everything was not fine. In 1512, Machiavelli's citizen militia was embarrassingly defeated by Spanish troops.
Wall.
Yeah, they hit a wall. They literally just didn't even fight. They just ran away pretty much. It was embarrassing. It was bad. And this is the end of Machiavelli's political career because after this happened, the Medici were able to reclaim power. Okay, so that was it. Very short-lived career. It was like 14 years. Not much happens. A lot of failures. A lot of not moving forward. And that's that. So Machiavelli leaves politics, and shortly after, he is imprisoned because they believed that there was a conspiracy against the Medici family. He was imprisoned and sentenced to 6 drops of the strappado.
Oh.
So this is medieval torture.
I thought that was a gelato flavor.
No, they would tie your hands behind your back and suspend you, tie it to a long rope, and then fling you off a high thing so that when the rope became taut, your shoulders would dislocate backwards. Jesus. And he was sentenced to 6 drops of that.
Oh my God.
Which is gnarly. He survived. And he wrote to a friend, he was like, I'm more of a man than I ever thought I was.
Interesting. It was a bit of an initiation.
Yeah. He, after 3 weeks of imprisonment, was allowed to leave and go home. So he left to about 7 miles south of Florence to spend the rest of his days writing on his farm.
with his wife.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Sorry.
Stole my thunder.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was going to say, writing in the Florence countryside sounds absolutely lovely. I would love to spend the rest of my days doing that. But Machiavelli was like so depressed. This is the worst thing that could happen to him. He wrote to a friend that he is without any human face. Which,
besides his wife and children.
Which is not true because he had a wife and 7 kids, which makes you wonder what he thought about. No, it doesn't make you wonder what he thought about them. We know how he felt about them.
But he was disconnected from the manosphere. Like that's who he cared about. That was his audience.
100%. Yeah. Side note, I think 2 of his kids died young, so maybe there's only 5 children waiting for him, but still. He had a wife and a family waiting for him on the farm.
Without a single face.
Without a single face. And he hated domestic life. He hated married life. He hated domestic life. Very ball and chain energy. And this is where I really want to talk about some of his misogynistic writings.
No.
Okay. This guy. No. So Machiavelli never regains any political power. He spends the rest of his life writing on his farm. This is when he writes The Prince and when he writes his Discourses on Livy, which are his 2 most lasting works, which we will get to. But first I want to talk about the things that made him famous in his lifetime, which were his plays and his novellas and short stories, things like that. They were all pretty misogynistic and also very lowbrow humor. He wrote a novella about the devil coming to earth to take a wife, to understand why all the men in hell blamed their wives for their misfortunes. And in the end, the devil decides that he would rather be in hell than deal with a woman. So there's that.
Remember that.
He also wrote, I'm going to try really hard not to ruin the name of this, Mendragola, which was a play that, he was I think he was commissioned to write a history of Florence, but then I think he wrote this instead to appease the Pope. It's just a play about a young Florentine who masterminds a scheme to sleep with the most beautiful woman in Italy, even though she's already married. And so him and the husband get together and come up with a plan so that he can sleep with her. I don't know. It's very lowbrow humor. People thought it was very funny. I was going to watch it. I didn't watch it.
But it yet famously makes fun of the Pope.
It makes fun of the Pope, yes.
Who just commissioned him to write a history of Florence.
Right. But the Pope loved it. The Pope thought it was hilarious.
Okay. So it was like kind of like a roast. Like it was like a loving roast. Okay.
It was like a roast.
Okay.
Machiavelli is Tony Hinchcliffe energy. 100%. Like, he so desperately wants to be one of the cool guys.
Yeah.
And is just roasting people. He's funny and witty. What he has going for him that Tony Hinchcliffe does not is that he was, I think, really smart and, again, didn't suffer fools. Like, he would not deal with stupid people.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Tony Hinchcliffe
exploit stupid people to try and get the shine from the higher
ups. The higher ups. Whereas I think Machiavelli would never even, he couldn't even be bothered, I think, to deal with stupid people. He thought many people above him were stupid, were dumber than him.
Very elitist.
Very elitist.
But also hates authority. Poor guy.
Totally. Yeah.
Grand Cross. We'll get into it. Yeah. Lots of paradoxes in this poor man's psyche.
Yeah, totally. I mean, poor man. Yeah. Whatever. He also wrote a book, or I don't know if it's a book or a play, where the main character falls in love with his adopted daughter and comes up with a plan to marry her off to his stupid neighbor so that he can sleep with her whenever he wants. So
you're right, he is smart.
So, and this is not even the worst one. I'm about to tell you the worst one, and I'm about to go on a really long rant, so sorry, everybody. So, in a letter, while Machiavelli's off gallivanting and doing his job or whatever, he wrote a letter to a friend where he described how when he was out on the road, he was seduced by a laundry woman who brought him into her house and presented herself to him, although her face was covered with a towel, and he was very randy, let's say, and so decided to take her up on her offer. However, afterwards, he wanted to look upon the merchandise that he had just taken part in, found a light and shone it upon her, and it turns out that she was ugly. Ah!
My gosh.
She was not just ugly, she was like a monster, right?
Okay.
She had, I'm being dramatic, but also
She was like a 2 or like a monster?
she wasn't just a 2.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. Like, she had no hair, she had no teeth, her eyes were facing in different directions. She was like, I don't know, maybe she was just really ugly, but he describes her as like a monster. And the punchline of this whole story is that her stench made him vomit all over her. So that's the type of humor that we're dealing with.
He does sound like Tony Hinchcliffe. Yeah.
It's not funny.
He did
It's
golden
not
ticket
smart.
winner for sure.
And it's extremely misogynistic. So the book that I listened to all about Machiavelli's life, which if you're interested, I recommend. It was very good. It read really well. It was by Ross King. Machiavelli, Philosopher of Power is what it's called. And when he talks about this letter, he mentions, this is just one example of a long line of misogynistic writing like this. So there are some people online who think that this was a true story. I don't think so. I think that this is a story that's been regurgitated many times throughout history, and Machiavelli just like wanted to make his friend laugh, and so he wrote it to him.
Okay.
I don't think it actually happened. So he became very famous for these writings in his time. But when he first goes back to his farm, and he is so depressed and like just wants to be one of the guys again, like he's just desperate to be one of the guys. This is when he decides to write The Prince, which is his most lasting work. It is what he is most known for. The Prince is kind of a handbook. He was writing it to the Medici prince to try and gain favor with him. Okay, so this is an interesting
pandering.
He was pandering, but with his intellect.
Okay.
So that's the difference between, right? Like, he couldn't just, again, suck up to people.
He finally learned to pander.
He learned to pander, but it still had these constrictions on it, right? Where he was like, I'm only going to offer up my intelligence. I'm only going to offer up what I've learned, right? And so he writes The Prince, which is all about power and different ways that princes can rule. It's a very interesting book. It's probably what you've studied in history class and poli-sci class. It's very bold. It's bold even now, but back then it was very bold. Like, again, people were trying to rule with morals. Machiavelli is taking a very, what he would call just realistic approach to politics. He's saying, listen, people are self-centered. People are going to do what's best for them, and this is how you deal with that. And so it's very memeable. It's a very memeable book. The ends justify the means.
Slap it on a sticker.
It's better to be feared than loved.
Classic.
I know. It has all of these very gross, like, generalizations that are very easily, they're shocking. You hear it and it's like, wow, that's terrifying.
Wow, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, and also, like, that's terrifying. I don't want the people in power over us to rule that way. Like, we like to be idealistic about our leaders, And so The Prince ultimately is like, it doesn't become published until after his death, right? And it's banished almost immediately by the Pope for over 200 years because he called it the devil's finger.
No.
Well, I would like to read that.
Because it kind of capitulates to the cruelness of human nature.
Yes,
where
100%.
Like Catholics want to, interesting.
They want to rule on high morals.
Yeah.
High moral standing.
Okay.
Right?
Like the idea that leadership is better than everyone else.
Right.
Not worse.
Yeah, totally. And this is where the term Machiavellian comes from. We would call people who are using these methods Machiavellian. However, this is like a really gross overgeneralization of Machiavelli and his views of the time. Machiavellian scholars, I don't think like the term Machiavellian.
Yeah.
Because this guy maybe didn't really believe all of the things that he wrote in The Prince. Like, first of all, he never says, you should definitely do this, right?
Yeah.
He just says, you can do this. This is an option, or you could do this. He's kind of presenting these different scenarios. He's pandering to the Medicis because he wants a job.
Okay, he just like will do anything at this point to get away from his family.
Yes.
That's quite a pivot, like
huge.
philosophically. Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
So he's kind of, I think, saying maybe what the prince might have wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Right? And this is interesting because if we compare it in particular to the discourses on Livy, which is his second most popular writing, he's full of contradiction. Like he's in the discourse on Livy, he's only talking about republics and how much better they are for nations. In the discourses on Livy, Machiavelli not only contends that governments of the people are far superior to those of princes. And so it's really hard to pin him down and to understand what his motives were. Here's a couple options. One, he is just trying to get a job. And so he's writing a book to present to the Medici in hopes of working with them again. Well, he never worked with them, but getting a job in politics again, right? That's option one. Two, he's just writing his observations that he's collected over a lifetime, and he wants to be able to present them, right? Like, it's kind of his life's work in a way. Three, this is a fun one. Well, actually, there's kind of four. So, sorry. Three would be somebody like Erica Benner. She is a Machiavellian scholar. She's not the only one to say this, but she argues that The Prince is actually a satire. And that it's actually ironic. And he didn't actually believe these things. And it's more meant to be read between the lines. Don't just cherry pick these really memeable quotes and think that's what Machiavelli believed the world should be.
Yes. And I mean, it always makes me think of like Darwinism, like how we really got that one wrong too. And it continues to
100%
be these brutal narratives that are like used by tyrants to justify their tyranny.
100
and the legitimacy of tyranny as the only way of rulership.
This is a perfect example.
Yeah.
I would say, like, in the evolution of a species, Darwin says survival of the fittest one time.
And it's about sharing.
He says cooperation like 100 times. That's what helps species evolve. You know what I mean? So again, it's the same exact thing. It's people going in, using this book for their own purposes, right? This became the handbook for tyrants.
Meta. Yeah.
People like Stalin were like, ooh, I'm gonna use this. But these people don't last,
That's true. They get replaced with other ones. But it's also funny that it's like the authority on power is this like banished pick-me boy.
100%. Yeah.
I couldn't help but wonder, is he the prince or the jester?
Sick. So good. So the last option, and this is my favorite option. I came up with, this one's all me, okay? This is Gwendora, Machiavellian scholar, okay?
Can we zoom in? We can't.
The Machiavelli is actually, this is not true. I'm not the only person who believes this. There are plenty of people who have studied Machiavelli who also believe this. Machiavelli wrote The Prince and presented it to the Medici in hopes that they would take that advice and it would lead to their downfall. Which is actually the most Machiavellian thing he could do.
Extra meta. Like an intellectual Trojan horse.
Exactly.
Thick.
Because he believed in republics.
Yeah.
So he's giving the prince terrible advice on purpose.
Because they don't last.
They don't last.
Interesting.
And he knows that. He's been studying somebody like Cesare Borgia, who did all of those things. He ruled by cruelty. He was ruthless. And he was feared and not loved. And
Yeah.
guess what? He had a very swift downfall. So
Yeah.
he already knows that these things actually aren't the best way to rule.
What a sneaky little sneaker.
I know. I love
He's
it.
the ugly woman.
The loathly
The
lady.
loathly
He
lady.
is the loathly lady. He has all
Gosh.
I think
Just an
that
ugly woman in a trench coat pretending to be a philosopher.
he really had a lot of questions. I think he figured some stuff out. I think he was writing to people with a very, he wanted critical thinkers to read it. I really don't think he wanted to be like, this is definitely how it is. I think
Yeah.
he wanted to present people with different options and say, this is what could happen, which we don't get a lot of that these days. We don't get a lot of nuanced writing where the person reading really has to think about the answer for themselves and what they think is best.
Yeah. Interesting. Which
Yeah.
is, yeah, it's that I think a lot of people are so afraid of being misunderstood. I mean, how would the internet have reacted to the prince? Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah,
The
totally.
hashtags, the cancelizations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, we don't have a good environment for something that complex.
Exactly. And
People
I
have
mean,
to be really clear.
it was canceled
Yeah,
back then. It was
it was
canceled for
canceled.
200 years. It was banned. It was not allowed.
Iconic. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So
Yeah.
there's that. I mean, that's pretty much everything I have to say about Machiavelli. He believed, I want to go back really quickly to the whole armed citizens thing. This is a really good example of how we know that Machiavelli didn't believe in princes and tyrants and things like that, because he believed that citizens should be armed.
Yeah.
And he believed that when you take away people's rights, it doesn't go smooth. He goes, if people have freedoms, they will fight for them.
Yeah.
Right? He believed in a citizen's militia. He believed that people would do that. So clearly that's not a recipe for success. Right? So there's a lot of things in his life that are pretty contradictory and really, really interesting in my opinion. He died on June 21st, 1527 on the solstice. And yeah, he gained a lot of fame over time. So that's pretty much it about Machiavelli. His legacy is super long lasting. We still talk about him a lot today. Machiavellian is an adjective for someone who's evil and cunning, and we see that archetype in pop culture a lot,
Yes.
Like Peter Baelish on Game of Thrones is a very Machiavellian person. Pretty much any mob boss in any movie. The guy from House of Cards, the big guy, right? Very Machiavellian. Fun fact also, Tupac read The Prince in prison and then released an album under the pseudonym Machiavelli, which is interesting. I thought that was fun. And
which he'd probably be more aligned with like actual Machiavelli's philosophy.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
The layers in that one. That's interesting. Yeah.
And again, it can't be understated how tyrants have really co-opted this book and taken it and used it for their own political gain.
Yeah.
So Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler were all said to have had copies of The Prince.
Yeah.
So it's not great. His legacy, I wonder if Machiavelli would like his legacy or not.
Great transition.
Okay, good. Yeah, tell us about his chart and the stars and what's going on.
There's just so much here.
Is there? Yeah.
So I think I'm going to focus this episode on talking about the lunar nodes, or what we call the karmic axis.
Cool.
So it's interesting you kind of bring up that theme of like fate versus virtue.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a theme of his chart is like this concept of an idealized self, like who we all want to be versus like our true self, like who we really are in this world.
Got it. Yes.
'Cause, yeah, he had such struggles within himself and struggles against the kind of material realities of his world.
Yeah.
So he could never be who he wanted to be.
Yeah.
So he became a trickster.
And he really studied that. He studied that a lot, right? Like he was like, listen, we need to stop focusing on how we should be and just focus on how people actually are. Right?
Yes, which is funny because we always give out the advice we need to hear the most, right? Because I think so So the lunar nodes, just to give a quick synopsis, are
Yeah.
like the special bridges where the moon's highway meets the Earth's road, right? Like the moon is rotating around us,
Okay.
we're rotating around the sun. So there are
Yes.
these mathematical points used in traditional and Vedic astrology that are they're always signs that are opposite from one another, right? He was on the Aquarius Leo axis, and they're showing kind of our karmic path. So where we come from, what kind of karma we come into this life with, and that's what's going to be familiar to us.
Mm.
That's our patterns. That's usually what our early life looks like. And then during these significant coming of age transits, like a Saturn return or a Uranus opposition, or these big transits at these kind of ages where we see humanity continuing having like initiation rituals,
Oh.
right? That's where we kind of get aligned to where we're going, or we don't and we suffer for it.
Okay, interesting.
So I will kind of speak to those who might have a rudimentary understanding of astrology.
Okay.
Like I hope anyone watching this knows sun signs. If not, just go look at some memes. They get it mostly right?
That's pretty much how I've learned. Well, I'm going to learn a lot just doing this, but like that's what I always tell people when I mention I put out a feeler to see if people are into astrology or not. And if they have no idea, I'm like, I only know enough to be able to laugh at the memes on the internet. That's the level that I'm at, but I'm hoping to learn more.
We demand to be taken seriously. So I shouldn't say
I
that.
want to understand more. It's just so complex. It really
so
is. And I'm a
complex.
visual learner. Like I need to have it all spread out in front of me. One of these days.
One of these days, we'll get a sponsor. We'll get a Medici patron of the arts who will give me a whiteboard.
Sponsor us. Yeah.
But yeah, your boy Niccolo is like coming from a Leo past. So in a past life, he most likely was the leader, was the it boy, was the cool guy, had the power of creation and manifestation that he just simply doesn't have because of his status.
Right.
Amongst other things, and then perhaps his fate, right? Because he is ultimately heading towards a more Aquarius life.
Okay.
Right? So he's going from being the main character to being like a stage director, which is very important. Thanks, Liz. But shout out.
You don't get the show without the stage director.
But they aren't up here with us, you know? So yeah, and I think
he was totally an observer. He was not like he was never partaking the way that he wanted to, except when he got to do the citizens militia. He did have his one shining moment. But for the most part, he is sitting back and observing and watching people.
And that dove died.
The dove died.
Like, I think that just goes to show it's like, no, it's not going to be like that. Because Leo also is like this kind of romance of like the single story and like the hero in some ways. And Aquarian, like we are moving into the age of Aquarius, and it's a lot more deconstructed and nebulous and complex. And that's the other thing. I think he also has a fixed grand cross, that he has planets in all the fixed signs. That means that he has a lot of, so the way that this, the constellations were when he was born, we look at angles at astrologers, and some are very kind of gentle angles, right? You might imagine like some sweet background music. Okay. But this one is like a score by like, I don't know, like whoever does The Shining, Oh, okay. Right? It's tense.
I'm gonna look it up.
It's anxiety inducing. Like his life wasn't made to, he's not a simple man. Some people have simpler charts, but he's like, there's squares. And I always think people with a lot of squares on their charts are literally edgy people.
2 ladies did the score for The Shining. Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind.
Well,
amazing.
Amazing.
Also, sorry.
We can do anything these days. I'm so embarrassed.
Also, I wanted to say, sorry, when he was thrown out of the government, he was 43. Would that have been is that like a Saturn returns or something?
That is one of my favorite transits, and it's called a Uranus opposition.
Okay, so that was included in what you were saying.
Yeah, so okay. 42 is 42. Like, yeah, which is funny. It's always seen like the meaning of the universe. Like it's kind of a number if you're into that stuff. But yes. 42 is, Uranus. So whenever we say return, right, your birthday is your solar return. The sun is right back in the same place it was when you were born.
Right.
So it's a year. And planets further away move slower. So Saturn is 27 years to go all the way around.
Got it.
So he actually died. He went through his first Saturn return and then died on his second.
Wow.
Yeah, and then his Uranus opposition, so that's when Uranus is 84 years, and so at 42 is really like midlife, and that tends
Yeah.
to be like the midlife crisis, where you kind
Mm.
of have to like get in line with your destiny or you will suffer.
Okay. And
Yeah.
he did.
And he did. And it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, some astrologers think even like that kind of what might lead to a premature death because you're like struggling against this existence.
Wow.
Yeah. But it
Interesting.
is interesting. Like most like people, like famous writers or artists, their magnum opus does tend to be produced at that age.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
There's still hope for us.
Yeah, so I am approaching my Uranus opposition as
Nice.
I'm creating this show. Please work.
Sponsor
Please,
us.
yeah. Like and share so I don't die.
Don't die
Not to be
early death.
manipulative. But speaking of manipulation.
Yeah, it's very Machiavellian.
Yeah, I mean yes, it's so interesting. It's so funny. Yeah, I feel like a lot of like feminine traits like manipulation that are used in an intimate world,
Right.
like he's doing in a public world,
Yeah.
you know, because that's manipulation is kind of the voice of the tool of the powerless. And that's what he's learned how to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I'd like to say about this karmic axis is I do evolutionary astrology, and it really looks at this idea that like every soul is on a journey to evolve. And especially in a Darwinian sense, it's kind of like what we're here to do. The universe exists just to evolve,
Right.
you know, and kind of and there is kind of a trajectory that we go on in our lives, and that we're kind of coexisting. We're this big project we're all doing here together.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's steps we miss.
Yeah.
So these are kind of little aspects we'll see
because we don't want to, because we're stubborn and we want.
Yeah, like you probably got it wrong in a past lifetime.
Okay.
Or I don't know, I guess there's all different philosophies. Like you didn't get a chance to do it yet. You know, we're living in our souls are living infinity lives.
Right.
And you might notice like some things are just kind of new to us. Like I think
Yes.
for people who are like terrified of being on stage,
Yeah.
like they probably haven't lived with a lot of like Leo archetypes, so
Right.
they're like losing their shit. Saturn, which is the ruler of his chart, right, which is like kind of a theme,
Okay.
is also a skip step, right? So Saturn is the planet of consequences. It was like named after the god of time,
Oh.
right? It's all about karma, limitations, and like it's something he's constantly struggling against. It's also considered like the father. And that has like, so it's interesting. He's like constantly coming up against authority.
Yeah, constantly.
And I guess I've never considered looking at someone's transits after they've died.
Oh, okay.
But it's interesting that even as he like lives on, he's now been cast as this like perverse authority himself, which seems mean.
Yeah.
But also just aligned with this because it's making an opposition to Neptune, the planet of Delulu. Complications, like dreaminess, but like hallucinations. And so that's in his 10th house, his house of career, right? So it's opposing his Saturn. So there's these very just prominent, powerful aspects against this like the drama of all these planets that just show poor misunderstood dude who's really making the best of it all.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if he's making it. Maybe it's fate. Who knows? Like he's a fun one to look at for like what, what is free will even?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the things as we're starting this, people who tend to be kind of voices of their time or generation tend to have these kind of slower moving planets, these generational planets in their first house. Or I'd say like for him it's his north node, and this thing called Chiron, which we'll talk about another time. Right? Because like our personal planets like are the short moving ones, right? If you're Venus, it's very particular to you where your Venus placement is, but everyone born in your generation is going to have the same Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, all the big boys.
That makes sense.
So I thought his first house has this stellium, so this like cluster of, because they aren't all planets here, but it's the
Right.
same as Oprah's, which I also thought was interesting.
Oh,
But as I see there, who knows how she'll be remembered actually.
yeah.
She's kind of, yeah, she's becoming quite a prince herself.
Right.
But in some ways, yeah, they're making something out of nothing, both of them. Or they
Yeah.
learned how to do that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Hmm. What
Do
else
you
can I say?
think Machiavelli would like his legacy?
Oh my gosh. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm really conflicted. Like I think selfishly he would, because people are still talking about him and still having major political commentary about his writings.
Yeah.
However, I think he would still have that like eye roll energy where he's like, they
No.
weren't supposed to do this with
Yes.
my work. They weren't
Yeah.
supposed to take it. But I also, because he would be like, see, told you so. Like all of
Yes.
these tyrants are
Yes, in some
using
ways
this book.
yeah.
And because I told you that they would, like, that's how people operate. And he would be very kind of, I think, eye rolly about it and annoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely will not have a step of Neptune next lifetime. Like he's like mastered the like obfuscation, you know?
Right.
Again, and that's in his like in a very public part of his chart. Yeah. Who's to say? But I think that's like, as I was looking at his chart, I'm like, the thing that so much of, I say this as a therapist, like so much of what our work is just kind of surrendering to what our lives are, right? Like
Right.
crushed dreams and hopes, but also
Yes.
finding out that what is meant for us feels better.
That's right.
You know, so I'd ask Machiavelli how it feels in his body to be so grotesquely misunderstood.
He would hate you.
He would hate me so much. And I love that for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that for you too.
He
Yeah.
would definitely write a letter about me to his bros.
Yeah, totally. You would not believe the woman that I encountered today.
And an astrologer of all respectable jobs.
I know. Women are astrologers now.
That's true. And I don't know, I guess just as we kick off this whole approach to history, it's just interesting, right? Just things we see manifesting. It is real, guys. Like 12th house is a house of imprisonment, and like Pluto was transiting his 12th house when he was imprisoned.
Okay.
You know?
That's very literal.
It is.
crazy.
Sometimes the universe is like, here,
Yeah.
you know?
Fun facts about, let's talk, I mean, it was the Renaissance. Was that the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, or?
Oh, good question.
Because Pluto, listen, I don't know much about astrology, but I do know that Pluto is in Aquarius for the next 19-ish years or something like that. So it couldn't have been, it's not the last.
Yeah.
There had to have been another time or two that Pluto was in Aquarius.
Pluto takes 248 years to move through the whole zodiac.
Oh.
So yeah, she's slow.
So was that the last time?
I can't do that kind of math. I think there might have been two.
Yeah. Well, regardless of whether or not there was more,
I did take
Pluto was in Aquarius during the Renaissance. And so that's a fun.
And here we are again.
Yeah. And I think that, like, you know, I think part of what we're trying to do here with this podcast is, one, I read somewhere that history needs to be retold every generation. And I agree with that. I think history needs to be constantly examined and put into different contexts for different people. Like, we are women. So we have I'm a feminist, I'll say it. You know, so we have a feminist like lens on when we look at history, and so kind of,
or just a regular lens that doesn't disvalue half the population.
Speaking my language. Amazing. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it's still just history. It's not feminist history.
Yes.
It's just history. But it's a side of history that hasn't been told in this way.
No, and again, like, how much have we lost? Not looking through all the different lenses that are available to us.
Right.
Because sometimes you miss a satire and a lot of people die. You know?
Right, exactly.
I guess, and it's so, but he was born natally with his Pluto in Virgo.
Oh.
So he probably felt like a lot of Gen Xers do now, where he's like, what is going on?
Yeah. Gen
Like we used to
Xers?
be a proper, Gen Xers.
Oh, okay.
They're Pluto and Virgo, right? They're generation that's really concerned with fairness.
Poor Gen Xers.
Yeah, they're like I thought if we did the right, or they have this sense of order that like Aquarius is very disruptive to.
That makes sense. I guess touching back on Pluto and Aquarius is that it's a rediscovering of old ideas. And so partially I like to think that that's what we're doing here is where, like I didn't study history in school. I studied film production. And so, but history is really interesting to me now because of where we are in the world today, right? It is when you start studying history, you're like, oh, this has happened before. Oh,
almost like it's a cycle of planets. Like it's like with astrology seeming so far-fetched, it's like round and round we go.
Totally. Here we go again.
Yeah.
Here we are. We always think we're living in unprecedented times.
They're quite precedented.
It's like this has all happened before. You just need to look back into history to understand it.
Yeah.
So.
But we are all a new batch of souls on this novel journey.
It's true.
Right? Because that's so, and that's the thing I would say in your own life, right? It's going back to that lunar axis. It's like, if you keep going back to the same cycle, you aren't growing. Right.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you gotta embrace the novel, the weird.
Yeah.
To quote another Italian, one of my Gramsci, like one of my favorite quotes: "The old has yet to die, and the new has yet to be born. Now is the time of monsters."
Ooh.
But it kind of is always the time of monsters.
Yeah, that's always then,
what your
right?
true note is there to show you.
Nice.
Yeah. It's weird. Not like scary just like how monsters became a motif too, because they're like this weird amalgamation of things that shouldn't be together, but are.
Right.
We have to learn to tolerate. Yeah.
Great. How do you feel? Anything else you need to mention about Machiavelli's chart that's interesting?
I mean, let's see, his birth date has been translated into Gregorian time, which is like a funny little problem to have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I'm sure it's not exact. But again, we're looking mostly at these outer planets, right? So there's a margin for error. They're moving, these are like hundreds of years.
So slow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, just to keep with the Neptunian themes. If we get it wrong, whatever.
Yeah. Nice.
Nothing's real.
Nothing's real. There are limitations to the observable universe.
So yeah, I guess what would you define Machiavellian as?
Yeah, I do like the word cunning. More than like evil.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that he talks about in The Prince. And that's why that woman, Erica Benner, wrote, be like the fox, right? Be cunning, be smart, look at your surroundings and move accordingly. I don't think he really believed you could do anything by brute force because there's too many outside factors being involved. Yeah. So I do think that being smart, just being smart, looking around you, taking in your surroundings and being cunning.
Yeah, like it's virtuous, not because it's like better to be into like the power of the pen over the power of the sword, but it's just like more effective.
Well, that's pretty much it for Machiavelli. Thanks for listening and to our retelling of this interesting story and astrological journey, I guess.
Yes, we all went on together.
Yeah, cool. So next we're going to be taking on kind of in a similar realm, Queen Elizabeth I.
Yes, we are.
Queen. When we say queen, this is who we're talking about.
Virgo queen.
We love.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Bye.